Electrocast.
We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become?
Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
Hold on to your butts.
We are changing the course of history as we see it. That is what Wesley demands.
Now this affects Iris. Iris, where are you?
What you feel only matters to you.
I do not entertain hypotheticals. The world as it is vexing enough.
Iris, I have a tip for you.
Don't take drugs!
Or Whatever Movies with Wesley and Iris.
What up and welcome to Or Whatever Movies. I'm your co-host Iris and I'm here with my older brother,
Wesley.
We're talking a movie from 2024 in theaters, David Leitch's The Fall Guy.
So this is a premium setup for the summer movie season, right? The Fall Guy based on IP, albeit from like 50 years ago. And you have Barbenheimer personified. Ryan Gosling, Oscar nominated for Ken. Emily Blunt from Oppenheimer, great chemistry. What could possibly go wrong?
Nothing goes wrong. Man, did The Fall Guy make me nostalgic for being on set. I really miss that and all the set chatter, banter, all the protocol and everything. I felt right at home.
All the boozing and the karaoke and the in-trailer trysts after hours.
I wasn't going to go there, but that's part and parcel, sure.
So my friend Eric said it best, and I will paraphrase. Everybody thinks that the field is where it's at, that on the set and on location is where it's at, where in reality, all the real heavy lifting comes into play in post. It is a party atmosphere, generally speaking, on set, where you get stuck and there are career PAs. They go to the bar and they sing karaoke and they have torrid love affairs or whatever behind the scenes, and everybody is dirty and they play guitar around. They take over a hotel and violate noise ordinances.
I don't know what sets you've been on.
That's exactly it. I haven't been on sets. But my entire career, I've made people who make terrible mistakes on set and who are boring and terrible, I make them look good. I've long said that any of the people who star in any of the shows that I've done extensive post-work on, should they win an Emmy, an Oscar, anything like that, a SAG award, I am charging up on stage and snatching it from them Kanye style because I made them look good.
We've talked about practical stunts and effects versus post-visual stunts and effects exhaustively. And I have to say, Emily Blunt, as a director, wanted to do it all practically. I'm imagining you really liked that.
I did like that. I like Emily Blunt. I like this character. Kelly Ray said that at least for this movie, Colt's job, the big drama, wasn't that he had to save her, the shrieking damsel in distress. And so all that was good. Nothing is more true in this movie, nothing, than the fact that a camera op within 5 years can move up to the director chair in a $100 million action sci-fi extravaganza.
To increase the implausibility, I think it was 1 year. And probably implausible, except we got the reasoning from the producer at the end. She says she hired her or she supported her because she was just so malleable.
Yeah.
The Gale character was definitely a slimier depiction of producers.
Yeah.
But had one thing right. She's like, I'm going to fix it. Don't worry. I'm going to take care of it. And with a giant shit-eating grin. That's a lot of what producers have to do. You know what was not practical, though? Though very cute. Emily Blunt's onesie, her jumpsuit.
Yep.
Not a very practical on-set.
Oh, no?
Outfit.
Keeps the dust off.
They're like coveralls, except it's going to take her 10 minutes to get out of that thing in order to go to the bathroom, and she cannot waste that kind of time.
Don't they have they have zipper butts or something, don't they? Or that flap in the back? This one that was directly inspired by Greta Gerwig and her pink jumpsuit on the Barbie set, which Emily Blunt said she took a lot of it, Greta Gerwig, for this role. The warmth and the kindness on set when she wasn't talking to Colt. But that was Greta Gerwig's wardrobe, her outfit for Barbie.
Okay, because I was mad at these wardrobe choices. I was like, come on, that's really unrealistic, especially as a camera operator. There's no way in hell that she's wearing a lavender sweatshirt. That camera operator is wearing black every day in and day out, and has a whole lineup of moisture-wicking black shirts and hoodies. I mean, the director obviously can afford to be a little bit more stylish, and Emily Blunt sure looked cute.
You know what should have been more realistic is if Hannah Waddingham, what was her name?
Gail Meyer character?
Yeah, if Gail was a real producer on this movie, she would have been raging and screaming at how much money they were wasting, doing multiple burn and cliff slamming takes in the middle of their heated little domestic discussion in front of the whole crew,
Right.
which took 10 minutes.
It really did. It really did. And I was like, wow, she's really leaning into this. It went a little too long, but it paid off at the end when there was that little burn. Was it a burn at the end, or was it like a sweet moment at the end when the stunt coordinator does like the ooh face?
I thought you meant
So good.
literally a burn, which it was a lot of the time.
Light 'em up.
Yep.
You know, they definitely did not apply the flame retardant to Ryan Gosling's face.
Yeah,
if you didn't notice.
the gel or whatever, flame retardant gel, so that his face could be on fire. They lit his shoes up. He would go up like a torch and just be standing there, literally smoldering and bearded.
They did like his neck and his chest, but they didn't want to ruin his makeup.
Nope. But what they did was they composited his face onto an actual double who was not him. Ryan Gosling never on fire in this movie. Even when he hits the wall and goes down and he gives the thumbs up when he's face down in the dirt, those flames were added digitally because Ryan Gosling and fire, not so much.
That's because Ryan Gosling is worth $1 million gazillion fulfillion.
Yep.
This is Ryan Gosling. Can we just talk about Ryan Gosling for a minute? Is this not Ryan Gosling's sweet spot of all time?
I really think so. Not even the first time he's played a stuntman, by the way, although for more nefarious purposes in Drive.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He was a precision driver or a stunt driver in Drive.
Something like that. But I agree. He's got that Colt Seaver kind of vibe where he's like stoic and kind of silent. And when he opens his mouth, it's snarky and cute. And he's quick, intelligent, but also never loses that kind of smirky humor.
And he's also like listening to Taylor Swift and pining after a not so long lost love.
Well, see, I'm afraid though when you say this, and I'm agreeing with you readily, that people are going to be like, oh yeah, like in The Nice Guys, which I loathed. And there's definitely room for that kind of for him to slide into that territory, unfortunately, because I think that Ryan Gosling is funny, but I think his conception or his perception of funny situations in roles isn't foolproof. He is good and charismatic and intensely likable. I think he and Emily Blunt are both likable, but he can be silly in a bad way, as was evidenced in The Nice Guys. I'm going to likewise argue that The Fall Guy, the story was easily the worst component. I think the star of The Fall Guy was their chemistry and their relationship and their history. Their interaction was good. The story around it, the direction around it, the writing, the editing didn't do service to their characters or their chemistry on screen. The Fall Guy obviously focuses heavily on stunts and stunt performers as a means of story in this movie, in that some of the major set pieces were stunts in the movie, but also part of the story, if that makes sense. The whole stunt sequence and the final jump and luring Aaron Taylor Johnson into the car to get him to confess and all that stuff, patently unbelievable, but part of the movie, and I get that. But unfortunately, like Rogue Nation and the other Mission Impossible movies, it seems like because David Leitch is a stunt performer, was a stunt performer, knows the ins and outs of that world. He's the dude who chased Matt Damon through the window off that massive roof jump in the Bourne movies and stuff. He knows what he's doing. He's doubled Brad Pitt and everybody in all these movies. And now he's, like Emily Blunt's Jodie character, has gone from a stunt performer to a full-blown $100 million budget director. But he doesn't have the rhythm and the feel for story. And likewise, the writer, I'm guessing they manufactured this movie around the stunt set pieces. So where it's not, you're like, oh my God, Tom Cruise is hanging off the side of the plane in Rogue Nation. And it wasn't, it was great, but it wasn't enough story-wise to sell that stunt. Dead Reckoning wasn't enough to sell that dirt bike stunt, which was in all the promotions, but doesn't make for a good movie or story necessarily, because they're all excited about the stunt and the sequence, but setting it up properly so that we believe that, wow, that was a culmination of so much in that incredible stunt. It wasn't that. The stunt was the set piece first and foremost, and the story was a brief consideration around it. And I felt like that's what most of The Fall Guy was.
But you also understood that that was a conscious choice on the part of the filmmakers. I mean, 10 minutes into the movie, the script supervisor comes up to Emily Blunt and is like, can we just have the actors talk in the third act about how they don't know what's happening in the third act? And Emily Blunt's like, And that's kind of exactly what they do when they're talking about how to entrap Tom Ryder and get the confession. It's all very aware of that fact. And because this is a stunt movie about showcasing stunts, didn't that kind of seem appropriate?
In theory, yes. Like I said, the stunts have to be impactful, or even the best stunt sequences fall flat. Did you not think it was a little bit dumb that he went into Tom Ryder's house and then he had that dumb fight with the girl roommate with the sword, who ended up destroying most of the house in a 10-minute sword fight, where I was like, why? Why does this keep happening? And it's carefully blocked and choreographed, and she's like slicing at him with the sword, and it's like whack, and it's like thunking into the support beams in the apartment and stuff. And you're like, wow, crazy. She's trying to kill him. But why? And then at the end of it, he's like, is that a prop sword? And you're like, oh my God. Just because they wanted to have a sword scene. Why would we do that?
The problem wasn't the stunt sequence, which was fun. The problem was, like with many of the sequences in The Fall Guy, it just took too long. Like when she knows, hey, you're Colt Seavers, ha ha ha. Sorry, I wanted to try out some, this new prop sword, and then it might not have grated on you so much.
And it wasn't just like in-my-face stunts all the time, like you would expect with a stunt performer turned director. David Leitch really did his best to make it stylized. I personally thought that the Dumbo pink elephants fight scene in the club was dumb. I was like, this is just a stylistic element that adds unnecessarily to this. Okay, as soon as you see the drug dealer guy, you know we're going to fight. Oh, now we're fighting. Oh, but it's a drug haze, like kind of hazy, dreamy fight. But he tried many things with the split screen and stuff throughout to make it fun and stylistic, and maybe even a little 70s throwback, like the original Fall Guy TV show, which we're definitely not going to talk about. But his climactic scene, I'm going to argue, well, probably the jump in the boat in Sydney Harbor, but we had the dump truck scene, or the bulldozer, whatever the hell he was in, the blade or whatever that he was scraping along the ground and that Ryan Gosling and his stunt doubles were riding in. Kelly was watching that dump truck scene or whatever, and she was pointing at it and being like, that's a stunt guy. That's him. That's Ryan Gosling. But that other one was a stunt guy or whatever. She's super watching it closely. At the same time, we're intercutting with Jodie singing Against All Odds in the karaoke bar. It's a climactic, like triple feature moment, because we have Joe Butapaki, Indiana Jonesing the kidnappers in the truck, and stuff, and kicking them out and stuff. And I was like, God, I don't care. There's so much going on. Why did we need to be with Joe Butapaki and the dogs? Why was that a thing? When they had the fight, when Winston Duke, who was the Hondo of this movie, that's the Top Gun Maverick tie-in. Remember when he fights the dudes on the set and the stunt performers come in, and I was like, is this a stunt team fight? Is this supposed to be a real fight? Because they're trying to get Tom Ryder in the car, the stunt car or whatever. Are they breakdance fighting? It was so crazy and stunt choreographed.
Are they Ken fighting?
Right? It was like, this is awesome and this is fun, right? Which I think is what the atmosphere is like on set. Like, that was awesome, guys. It's time for karaoke. And they wanted to introduce all those fun elements. But it was a little bit weird, right? That the fights were happening and they were like, nah, dude, well, they'll fix it in post. It'll be fine. Wesley will take care of it. It didn't feel disjointed and like kind of silly to you?
All of the stunt sequences felt a little bloated and probably could have been trimmed, and maybe they were in love with them because of the nature of The Fall Guy being a stunt-focused movie. But I can see what you're saying, especially the dump truck through the city karaoke sequence. Plus, every time there is one of those kind of fast-moving sequences, I'm like, why not just pull over? Like, why do you have to do it all at like 60 miles per hour through the city? I get that Stephanie Hsu was wrestling with the guy. I don't even know who those mercs were.
Exactly. Who were the mercs?
When the stunt team fights the mercs, I was like, who are they again? But all this to say that the joy of The Fall Guy was being able to kind of separate myself from the story and the plot and really enjoy and relish in the stunts. I mean, I think that was kind of the game that The Fall Guy wanted you to.
We took it all. We brought them to our land. An endless night, ember hot and icy cold. The rage of the earth. We made this curse. Carved it in the blood on our backs. We did not see. We could not, but she did. And in the end...
What will I become?
Senua's Saga. Hellblade 2.
Play it now with Game Pass.
To play. Was that a stunt guy or was that Ryan Gosling? Was that Emily Blunt or was that her stunt double? And that Kelly watched it right. That's the joy of The Fall Guy, is watching this and being able to really enjoy and relish in the quality stunts that the team pulls off.
And whether it was the stunt double or Emily Blunt, she got down, right? That fight scene, as long and drawn out and unnecessary as it was in her trailer, she wasn't the damsel in distress. She kicked ass and got her moment. And for a second, I was like, why did Emily Blunt take this thing? Oh, because she's fighting, like really fighting. And I got that, and that was all great. You talked about me not being the person to be on set to really appreciate that environment because of my general distaste for people at large, particularly in large groups. I'm not going to dispute that necessarily. I have been on set a number of times, and because I didn't really know what I was doing, I had the stupid earpiece in my ear, and I would try to interject producery things, but it's few and far between. And I always felt like an outsider, the one who shouldn't be speaking up on mic, the one who is eating more than my fair share of craft services. So I think that might have contributed to my sort of discomfort had I been on real, as one might put it, movie sets or TV sets, because I just would have felt out of place and awkward. And I likewise felt out of place and a little bit awkward in our screening because I wasn't feeling it. I was watching carefully and I was trying to have fun because I was really looking forward to this movie. But let me tell you, man, a few rows over from us, maybe in the same row, we had studio issued clappers and hysterical laughers. It was like one family who was all about it. It was astounding. They would not stop. Everything was absolutely hilarious. There's stuff that I don't even really remember that they were in hysterics over. I wrote down the tomahawk gag, and at that particular moment, they lost their minds. A tomahawk that he chose as a weapon at one point.
Yeah, and then he was like, oh man, is this rubber?
Oh, God. Right? And the sword likewise was a prop or whatever. I
thought you would have loved the Last the Mohicans moment.
I did.
I thought you loved that. I wish they had done more of that.
Now, where I was in the moment, in the movie, though, I definitely was the person who picked up on every one of those movie quotes and knew what they were from before they said where they were from. I get all that stuff. And that was the part that I fit in with. But boy, nothing made me feel more on the outside than this family hysterically laughing. You know, like the people that clap when a plane lands? It wasn't at the end. They were actively clapping and like screaming with glee during the sequences and even the humor. It was crazy.
You know, it's funny because I felt like I fit in perfectly with the 90s set that I happened to see The Fall Guy with. So I get to AMC and I buy my ticket and it's like $7 and I'm like, oh, sweet. And it's like AMC Stubs reward. And I was like, oh, maybe I had some points accumulated. And then I get in to the theater and I'm sitting with probably 24 blue-haired like couples on dates. It was so bizarre. And then I finally put 2 and 2 together after watching all of the AMC previews and stuff that I was there on a discount Tuesday afternoon. Where I think the seniors pay literally like $3.50 a ticket. I mean, at the end, the old man turned to the old woman and was like, "That was a cheap date." But I fit in perfectly with these 80 and 90-year-olds who throughout the movie were going, "Woohoo!" and clapping and like turning to each other like all mom and dad style and talking way too loud.
Really?
Like, that's the original. Hey, that Marge. That's the original Fall Guy. He's from the Fall Guy. And I was like, oh, dude, wow.
Dude, my laugh track audience seriously cheered and whooped when Lee Majors came on the screen. And I didn't peg them for old people. That wasn't the vibe because they were very energetic. Do old people whoop and clap and stuff?
Yes, dude. They whooped. And they clapped and they laughed, and afterwards they all talked all animatedly about the film and then and raved about what a great cheap date it was.
Oh man, you caught the vibe. You were infected by the old people enthusiasm.
Yeah, it was great.
Like maybe that's the audience with which this would have landed. The Fall Guy devotees from the 70s or whatever. You're telling me that the French-speaking dog bit landed with you and that you laughed?
No, in fact, I thought it was kind of underutilized. There was a lot of times where Jean-Claude was just sitting there where he could have been better used. Or it should have been more triumphant, like in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
And all, see, but that's the kind of the point. Like story-wise, it wasn't just a throwaway gag like the French-speaking dog was. His dog had been trained the entire time. We just didn't know it. That's expert setup and execution had that paying off. The closest we got to something paying off like that was set up was, did you get the gag where he said that he could have driven that boat with his hands tied behind his back and then later drives that boat with his hands tied behind his back?
No, I missed that, but that's good. I thought that this was a ton of fun. Ryan Gosling was positively made for this role. And it shows off all of the best things about his ability. And Emily Blunt, similarly, could do no wrong.
Great.
And so with these, for those two, I'm completely pleased.
I
Did
agree.
Colt Seavers and Tom Ryder need to be both gold alien cowboys in the car doing the impossible jump in order to get the confession? No. Were there about a half dozen false endings to the Fall Guy? Yes. Was I a little overstimulated by the time the Stephanie Hsu final coda sequence came on? Yes.
I don't even remember what you're talking about.
There were so many endings. It was like, God, will this thing ever end? Am I a little bummed that the producer has to be the bad guy? Yeah, but she was awful. Hannah
Waddingham, a thing, by the way. She's going to be in the next Tom Cruise movie.
Yeah, and she's great, and she was also great in that soccer show that you didn't watch because you don't watch TV.
Yeah, oh yeah, she was great in that show I didn't see.
And they had to have Stephanie Hsu because, not a lot of diversity in this movie. And were they selective and show decisiveness around what Post-it notes they showed us? Yes. And I've often wondered, is it Momoa or Momona? And now I have the answer.
You didn't think it was a little bit dumb that Tom Ryder hesitated before killing the guy that could incriminate him, could implicate him in the crime, because he was, and I quote, the best stunt double I've ever had?
Well, they had to just show that he had a little bit of his humanity left.
Yeah, poorly. They had to show that poorly. I agree that tricking him into the car, Ford versus Ferrari style, was a little bit drawn out and a little bit dumb, and by a little bit I mean a lot. And I wanted so much, and I did like the principles in this movie. And then after this movie, I watched Bullet Train, and I thought this all comes together so exactly like I expected it to. Bullet Train is not good. I'm sad to say the Fall Guy, not good. And I'm trying to pin down why that was, because it certainly wasn't Emily Blunt or Ryan Gosling. I have to think that it was the writing, which was clunky, around a stunt movie. And then I think it really has to come down to poor editing choices. The editing was its biggest enemy, where they're like, no, the stunts are where the money is. Put all of the stunts on screen and we'll give less consideration to the other stuff. And unfortunately, this movie would probably have been my favorite movie 35 years ago. Not so much now. When, by the way, I was probably watching The Fall Guy.
You watched that as a kid?
Yep.
So is it like the way back situation? Our discussion for which is available at orwhatevermovies.com or wherever you get podcasts?
It was my very first favorite country song where I was like, wait, I can like a country song? Because I'm the unknown stunt man. Makes Eastwood look so fine. And it was like all name droppy or whatever, but it was catchy. And he was a stunt guy. He didn't have to solve like an on-set murder. By the way, if your Tom disappears from $100 million movie set for days at a time, everything shuts down until you find out who kidnapped Tom Ryder or what happened. Nobody cared. They were like, let's keep shooting. He'll turn up. I'm sure he's in one of his moods or whatever. Maybe someone go to his apartment. Unrealistic and impractical.
I mean, it makes him like unbondable and you like can't get insurance for the next Tom Ryder movie. But they were doing all the stunt sequences. They didn't really need him.
You keep tabs. He's the reason for the stunt sequences. If you can't pay it off, you film all the stunts and the heavy action scenes when Harrison Ford hurts his shoulder and has to fly to LA for shoulder surgery. Then you film all the Temple of Doom whip stunts and thuggy cult stunts with the stunt double. Yeah, as long as you know that Harrison Ford is coming back, because you need him for the close-ups, for the inserts, or none of it works.
Well, apparently they had Jason Momoa on deck. You know, the most inconceivable, unrealistic thing of The Fall Guy is that Ryan Gosling can't be a leading man. Why did they put Jason Momoa in the Alien Cowboy movie when they could have just as easily just used all of Colt Seaver's footage and made him the leading guy? This is my main beef with The Fall Guy.
I'm sure that was part of David Leitch's conceit, where just the stunt performers are as good looking, as suave, and certainly smoother and more physically agile than your $20 million stars. Why can't we be front and center? Why can't we get our Oscar? And look, I'm all about stunts, stunt performers in particular. As you get a little bit older and as you're a normal human being who can see through between the lines, are as entertained by the technicality of movie making as you are by the movie itself, you have to appreciate these people who work tirelessly and get really hurt in the service of making some idiot look good. I'm a stunt performer, but in post, basically. I do the heavy lifting and I make them look way better. And still, one of the first sequences was a stunt performer being grievously injured when a stunt goes wrong, albeit sabotage, which we didn't find out until later. But I was like, this is the sad love letter to stunts, where the stunt guy gets hurt and then has a psychological crisis.
IMDb user reviews 10 stars, pure entertainment.
That's exactly what I thought going into The Fall Guy. Not so much as I was walking out.
7 stars, movie within a movie, stuntman within a stuntman.
Yeah, that says nothing about the quality of the final product, of how it was executed, or its enjoyability. Thank you for playing.
9 stars. More of these movies, please.
Yeah, for the cackle gaggle, absolutely.
There's no way. I mean, Hollywood loves Hollywood. There's no way that you're giving this a whatever.
Why did this movie fail so badly?
I mean, nobody goes to the movies.
These are the stars of the biggest box office, the milestone in movie box office performance of the last 10 years. Barbenheimer was a thing. They took exactly those elements, recycled them, and put them in a fun action start of the summer movie, and nothing. What happened?
Well, that's just a symptom of our industry that you get one weekend. It's not fair. Emily, you're gonna give Emily Blunt a whatever?
I'm gonna give David Leitch, the screenwriter guy whose name I've forgotten, who's responsible for Rogue Nation. I'm gonna give the Bullet Train experience a whatever, because The Fall Guy, a part of it, probably 30% of it, is my love for The Fall Guy and my expectations for this movie, which they simply fail. It's not that hard.
No, Wes. This is not a I love because I hate because I love situation. No. This is a jaded, hard-hearted, stoic moviegoer that you've become that refuses to enjoy going to the movies.
And yet I liked the idea of you with Anne Hathaway and the dumb-faced kid.
Exactly. This is exactly what I'm saying.
I wanted to love it, didn't love it. Come at me, bro.
Never has Wes been so wrong in Or Whatever Movies history than he is on The Fall Guy, which I give a Totally.
Totally. It wasn't too long. It wasn't implausible. It was all the fun.
I'm not saying that it was perfect. I'm saying that this is the movie that we all need right now. 818-835-0473 or orwhatevermovies@gmail.com. Or whatever movies audience, I'm really sorry. I apologize on behalf of my brother Wesley.
I apologize
about this episode of The Fall Guy, or for what it's worth. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Hi, I'm Leslie Gadet, host of her Extraordinary Life by Design podcast, where we celebrate women who are shaping their lives one extraordinary day at a time. I speak with women from all over the world about what they do and how they are passionately pursuing their dreams and creating meaningful impacts on their communities. So come join us and learn about all there is to learn about these extraordinary women.
Hey there, fabulous souls. I'm Stephanie Baklaan.
And I'm Eden Alpert.
And we're the hosts of the brand new podcast, Unapologetically Fab.
Get ready to join us on an amazing and real journey as we dive into life after 40 and own it.
We're all about changing the narrative, leaning into who you are, and living a life by your own design.
Join us as we embrace life unapologetically and redefine success.
This is Unapologetically Fab,
an Electric Cat production.
See you there.
Electricast. Electricast.